Hi, it's Tricia at Club Scrap, and this month's beautiful tapestry collection is on deck for assembly. I've got my instructions printed, and I also have a sample of all the beautiful layouts we're going to make. Let's just whip through those real quick. And we got layout 1 and 2 using the rust papers as the base, so beautiful. Layouts 3 and 4 use this gorgeous purple satin ribbon included in the kit. Layout 5 and 6 features the beautiful stencil that we've designed to match with this collection. And layout 7 and 8, once again, using the stencil with some colored spray mist for beautiful results. So let's go ahead and get started with our assembly. I've got my trimmer ready, and my accordion pocket file, and my kit. We'll set aside all the embellishments, including the bronze medallions, the journaling tags, the ribbon, and the buttons. We'll also set aside the stencil, because first we need to do some organizing and filing. So let's find out where our photo mats are going to live, and we'll put those items into the appropriate file in our accordion pocket file. We'll need 3 ivory photo mats in pockets 1 and 2. Let's place 2 rust photo mats in the pocket for layout 3 and 4. 3 gold photo mats in the pocket for 5 and 6, along with 1 additional rust photo mat. And then finally 3 green photo mats go in the pocket for 7 and 8. Next, I'd like to get organized so that all the papers that I trim will be at the top, so let's do that next. We're going to sort out our paper collection. First, we'll begin with this gorgeous bronze medallion print, and then 1 collage print. This is a base of ivory, but with some beautiful designs on it. And then 1 dark green plain. This color's got a beautiful texture. And 1 purple plain. This piece also has a beautiful linen texture. Next, we'll trim the cut aparts. So we'll start out with those border strips next. And then the other sheet, which has some different sized objects. Finally, we'll put the papers in order from layout 8 to layout 1. So here we go. Layout 8 is going to use this collage print as the base, followed by the dark green plain for layout 7. And then we have the medallion print, the bronze print for layout 6. The other beautiful purple for layout 5. 2 this gold, beautiful rich gold color next. And then we'll finish with 2 rust. Now, if you've been sorting all of this and stacking it, and you flip everything back over again, that this piece will be the first piece we're going to trim. Now for this piece, you'll notice I've set aside my trimmer for a little bit because we're actually not going to trim it. We are going to cut it. You can do this one of 2 ways. You can grab a scissors and just cut along the curved edge of this large medallion, or you can take a cutting mat, and I've got the beautiful blue Club Scrap cutting mat here. It's 13 by 13, perfect for a project like this. And I have my craft knife. Now make sure you have a nice sharp blade. I'm going to try to make this with 1 really even movement. I'll start holding my craft knife like a pen, push down firmly at the top of the medallion, and just draw that craft knife toward me. And I'm not going to do any detail here. I'm just going to go along the outside edge of that image. And then I'll put my lid back on, and lo and behold, I've got 2 pieces. This one trimmed along the medallion. Now, if you want, anytime you do this, it's going to leave sort of an ivory colored edge on this print. So if you want, you can disguise that a little bit with some earth colored ink, just kind of to define that border slightly. So I'll just do that. And both of these pieces are used in layouts 1 and 2. They're kind of large, so I don't even think I'm going to file them. I'll just set them aside. And once again, I'll grab my trimmer. Next, we'll take the ivory collage print and we'll place it in the trimmer so that this larger medallion is in the lower left corner, and then this medium-sized round one is in the upper right. And let's cut it 8 3/4 and 5. Now this 5-inch piece can be filed directly into layouts 3 and 4, And then the next piece we are going to trim. So this is the 3 3/4 by 12. We'll cut at 11 1/4, and it doesn't really matter which direction it goes in as long as it's horizontal. So 11 1/4, 7 1/2, 3 3/4. You just made 3 squares, and they'll all get filed into pocket 1 and 2. And I regret to inform you that this piece was not used. So I'll set that aside. You have one other decorative piece here that remains a 12-inch strip, and file it in the pocket for 3 and 4. And then pick up the green plain. Now this paper does have a line, like a cord-like texture to it. However, it doesn't really matter in the end which direction it gets trimmed, so just whatever pleases you. We'll go ahead and cut at 8 and 4. Now take 2 of these 4 by 12s and stack them and cut horizontally at 6. I just created 4 pieces that are the same. Let's take 2 of them and put them in the pocket for 3 and 4. And the other 2 will go in 7 and 8. Finally, we do have one more strip that needs to be trimmed horizontally at 9, 6, and 3. Take one of these rectangles and file it in 5 and 6, and the other 3 all go in 3 and 4. For our purple plain, I'm going to place this in the trimmer any old way. Again, it's linen texture, so it doesn't really matter. Our first cut is at 11 1/2, and then 11, 10 1/4, and 10. Finally, 6. Rotate the 6 by 12 so it's horizontal and cut at 8 and 4. Gather up the 3 rectangles you just made. They'll all file in pockets 7 and 8. The very next piece will trim horizontally at 6. Both of these live in layouts 5 and 6. And then we've got some strips here. Now there's a very, very skinny one. You can certainly add this to anything. However, I did not use it on my layouts. Then you have one wider one and then 2 narrow ones. All of them go in pocket 3 and 4. Next we'll trim the sheet that mostly highlights the longer border strips. Remember to find your little registration marks here, that you'll find them at the top and bottom edge of the artwork. And so just line those marks with the edge of the blade on your trimmer. And that first cut was at around 9 3/4. And just go on down the line, making sure you separate each element. Alright, so when I finish trimming these elements, I will consult page 1 of my instructions. The lower left corner shows the cut apart and the distribution map for each item, but I'll go over that with you together. So this, you were given this life cut apart, 3 and 4. Of course, I don't try to stuff the item into the pocket. If it's 12 inches long, just lay it on its side. This Life is Beautiful, 7 and 8. Make Art, 1 and 2. This sweet little printed border strip is 5 and 6. Here's another strip with some smaller medallions on it, 7 and 8. And then we have this more of a rust-toned floral, 1 and 2. Weave Your Life Experiences, this is 3 and 4. And now we have a strip that has individual elements on it that will need to be trimmed. And of course, trim the smaller pieces from the strip first. Friends, 7 and 8. Beautiful, 1 and 2. It's the Little Things, 3 and 4. And Perfectly You, 5 and 6. Almost there. Let's take this last sheet of cut aparts. Once again, after studying it, I see the most narrow part is here, and I'll just cut my strips first. So I've rotated that last piece and cut them in half. So the purple one will go in 5 and 6, and then this rust with a smile quote will be also 5 and 6. I use a lot of cut aparts on 5 and 6. All right, let's trim this into 3 separate elements. There's no time like the present. That will be used in 5 and 6. You have a journaling prompt that says remember when, 3 and 4. And then this vertical journaling prompt without any text at the top goes in 5 and 6. Let's trim this into separate elements. All right, to the large purple strip, 5 and 6. Together is the best place to be, 3 and 4. Enjoy every moment, 7 and 8. Here's our next one. My favorite age is now. I have to agree with that. All right, 5 and 6. Always an adventure, 1 and 2. Too old for Snapchat and too young for life, alert. I also agree with this, 5 and 6. All right, this one does not need to be separated. It's just a long strip, and this this last piece, 1 and 2. And now we're ready for some dry fit assembly. So I'm turning to page 4 of my instructions and looking at layout 8, which is the bottom image on the right side. So this is the configuration we're looking for first. So the base of layout 8 was the next sheet in my sorted pile of papers. And then I'll go into my pocket for layout 7 and 8 and grab what's there. All right, so let's take, only some of these elements will be used on this side of the page. We'll begin with a nested photo mat here on the right. And then we'll take 2 of these darker green photo mats and place them horizontally. This is a very simple page. And then we've got the friends will be up here. And in order to create some contrast between the cut apart and the paper on the base, once again, I used my ink pad. Now there's 2 ways you can apply ink to the edge of something. You can go directly from the pad onto the paper, or for something a little more subtle or warmer, you can use an ink applicator. And just kind of depends on the look you're going for. It doesn't have to be a big lengthy project either. You can ink edges of something very quickly if you have the right tools. And so I'll place that here. Now, I did add a little ribbon to this, and I want to show you how I did it. This is one of the simplest things you can possibly do with this beautiful double-faced purple satin ribbon. So simply make a knot. That's it. Just boom, there's a knot. Okay. Then I fold the ribbon in half lengthwise. Take a scissors and cut at an angle toward the fold, or toward where the bow is, where the knot is located. So cut toward that. And when you open the ribbon, it's just a beautiful swallow's tail, I think they call it. I don't know, whatever you want to call it, a V-cut. Do the same thing. Now the point of my scissors is going toward the knot. If you've ever made a backwards swallow's tail, you'll know what I'm talking about. And now you just get this really pretty, still relatively flat embellishment. To adhere this to the page, all I did was added a little bit of bookbinding glue. At the bottom of this layout, we'll finish it off with 3 buttons. Now remember, the buttons that we purchased for this collection are assorted, so you may not have a style that matches these perfectly, but they're all very similar. So let's take a look at that finished page with everything adhered. My inked edges and the buttons down here at the bottom. Very nice and easy. I'll set this aside and then slide the next sheet over, which will be green. And you know, if you have the supplies to do this, great. If not, you can go an alternative route. But I took the stencil and I placed it in an empty pizza box, and I call it a spray tray. It's my fancy name for that. And just misted it with some colored mist, and the effect was absolutely perfect. I used a lavender colored or a purple colored mist. You could also use a white pigment mist, or you can just switch and use inks as well. Use an amethyst or parchment ink, whatever you have on hand in your supplies, because Lord knows we have a lot of supplies. I will show you what the stenciled base page looks like. I just did it 3 placements and 3 sets of misting, and beautiful results. As far as the items that go on this layout, got a kind of a fun little thing to show you. This border strip here, and another one across the bottom, and then some of this beautiful, it's like a grosgrain and satin ribbon with a rose gold edge. So it's like a combination of 3 different things going on with this ribbon. And again, whenever I place ribbon on my layout, I always just check to make sure I have it positioned on there the way the ribbon wants to go. So I wrap it around to the back and tape the ends. Then I can fit 2 nested photo mats on this. Now, I like to position sometimes my photos at an angle. If you're doing that, I want to just mention that you can look out for tangents when you're doing a placement like this. Like, for example, avoid placing the 2 photo mats with any of their corners touching. I like to usually shift upper and lower a little bit and then have them overlap so that the corners do not touch. And then if you're in the mood, you can take a scissors and cut around this element and attach it with foam adhesive. That's entirely up to you if you feel like messing with it. In the upper corner here, I used a medallion to accent the title. And I also took a loop of this beautiful ribbon, cut the tail at an angle here. And so I began by placing the ribbon right along the title and just tape it down. And then set the medallion on top. And just make sure the ribbon's not obscuring. But I love the look of that. Now, when you are attaching this, I put, with my needle tip applicator, I applied glue around the full circle and then one on each of the dots and a little bit on the inner ring. And then I placed it on top of my object or my paper. And then make sure you set something with a little bit of weight on it until it cures. I mean, really just a few minutes and your medallion would be secured. Here's the finished layout with the misting. So again, just place that down, spritz it with some colored mist if you happen to have some, even like a bronze or a metallic would be beautiful, whatever you like. Just feel free to experiment, even on a scrap piece of paper to see how it works. But this stencil is absolutely stunning. All right, let's move along to layout number 5. The base of this page is the other medallion print that we did not cut. And then I did manage to nest 2 photo mats. I liked the way the gold kind of made everything pop, and I just won't even acknowledge that these are Minnesota Viking colors, so yay for the Minnesota Viking fans out there if you like them. These are your colors. Okay, then this cool piece, Jacqueline designed it so that that medallion that we included will just nestle right into this curved area. I love how that looks. I also used a craft journaling tag. Now, what's cool about these is if you want to use it as a journaling prompt, go ahead, or you can flip it over and use it on either side. So in this case, I did use it as a journaling prompt, overlapping slightly. And I've got a cut apart here in the upper right corner. And I kind of tucked that behind a little bit and flanked it with a button on top that I just attached with bookbinding glue. It's also really cute if you just tie a little bow with some wax linen thread, but in this case I didn't even do that. And I added a little bit of the rose gold edged ribbon here. So for our finished page, here are all of those little details. We'll set this aside and let's take a look at how we'll assemble layout 5. Now in this case, once again, I used the stencil. I used an ink pad, in this case parchment. You could also use our white. Either way, they look fantastic. So just grab some ink with your ink applicator. You know, and it's up to you if you want to tape or secure the stencil. I think decide to do that if you're newer to this and you're just uncertain about how all of this works. Since the purple paper is purple on both sides, if things don't go as you'd hoped on your first attempt, you can always just flip it over and stencil on the reverse side as well. And when I lift, it's beautiful. Okay, and I would do it a few other areas if you're in the mood as well. So I'll set this aside and then show you how the rest of the layout comes together. Okay, let's begin with a border strip here, and then we'll nest this cut apart on top of the gold photo mat across the top of the page. When I'm actually adhering my components, And you do need to adhere from the bottom up, so the border strip would actually be attached first. I think I was about an inch from the top edge. So then everything kind of comes up a little bit and nestles in, hugging on the right edge of this layout. So I'll always use my grid ruler to help make sure things are flush at the top, making sure the straight line of the ruler is aligned with the edge of the paper. And I just continue down, always using my ruler to make sure everything lines up well. Now this little perfectly you can just kind of tuck it right under there, maybe at an angle would be sweet. Just making sure your corners don't touch, creating a tangent. Then Jacqueline also designed some of the cut aparts to nest perfectly onto the tag. So in this case, instead of using the journaling prompt side, I'm using the plain side. That will go down here, but first this piece will become tucked under, and I'll align the left edge with this photo mat here. Lots of really nice nesting happening. This nests on, and then we'll just top that with a wood button. So pretty. So here's the finished layouts with the stenciling and some satin ribbon added. I did it the same way. I just made a knot and tied the ends around at the back. Moving on to layout 4. The base for this is this golden yellow, and we will create a little strip along the right side here with this narrower piece of the collage print. I think it's 3 1/4 by 12. And then kind of create separation between the two areas with one of the strips. Now I just grabbed the larger one. You'll need the 1/2 inch strip to fit in this spot. Now we're going to kind of create a puzzle, and I love how this worked here with 4 green pieces. So if you look carefully, notice how they nest so well, and then I'll alternate. I'll have a long vertical here and then another short on this side. Then to support the bottom half of this page, we will take the Weave Your Life Experiences strip and nest it onto the purple. And that will kind of help anchor these elements here at the bottom. And then it's the little things that count. You'll notice it's open like up here at the top. That gives me enough room to sort of tuck this underneath here and have it all fit. Which with this ruler, it's not going to fit. Okay, so that will tuck under there. Then I also added one of the cut aparts that has this cute frame. And I did take the time to trim it, detail cut it with the scissors, and then ink the edges. You'll notice that there's a medallion shape right here on the print. Let's just draw attention to that by finishing that with the bronze medallion on top. So the finished layout really looks professional, clean, lots of room for photos here. The other gold print is used for page 3, and then I'm going to position this medallion so it's arranged in this orientation at the top. Create my subdivision here with the purple strip. Then along the right edge, I'll tuck 2 horizontal rust photo mats. To their left, let's do a big vertical strip. The Remember When and the green 3x4 you have will nest together perfectly. And then across the top, I made a 3-part bow out of this gorgeous satin ribbon. You can't tell I like that ribbon, can you? All right, let's take a look at the finished page. So here's everything adhered, and I just made the 3-part bow and wrapped the ends of the base of the bow around to the back of that border strip before I attached it to the layout. Moving right along to layout 2, this is where you're going to be using the piece that you trimmed. This would be like, in essence, the scrap, and then by adding that inked edge, I just think it helps create a little contrast between the rust base and the medallion print. Across the top, I'm going to be placing 3 ivory squares. Now, these are definitely designed to hold some photos, but if it doesn't end up working out that way, and you want to just maybe have your busiest one here, and then arrange the other 2, or if you want, you can also flip them to the plain side. As always, I use my grid ruler to make sure my spacing is equal and that they're aligned well. Then we'll support that and anchor that with a border strip. Trim, I'd say about a 14-inch piece of this beautiful grosgrain metallic edge ribbon, and then run that across. On the bottom left corner, we'll add a ivory photo mat, and then 2 of these tags. So one tag we'll use upside down, and the other we'll use right side up as a journaling prompt, because as I mentioned before, we've got a cut up part that will nest on there beautifully. You'll notice I also threaded some of that ribbon onto the tags. It really finishes it off well. And then our rust for the base of layout 1. Here we've got our gorgeous, it's so pretty. We'll add some ivory photo mats in the upper right corner. And again, I watched my spacing, not only in reference to the outside edges, so don't shove that up to the edge, make sure it has some breathing room. I have between 1/8 and 1/4 of an inch, and I have it consistently spaced. And then the same for these border strips. So we'll take this 12-inch strip and run it below this mat, creating the same amount of separation that we have with the other pieces. And then we'll have a vertical piece here. And you can take another length of this ribbon, trim it long enough so you can wrap the ends around to the back, and I just tied another piece onto it. I'll show you in a moment. And then we can add our last cut apart and finish that with a medallion. Here it is. So I just tied the little bow right onto the ribbon. It's such an easy way to do it. What you need to also make sure of though is if you're taping the edges around to the back prior to tying on this ribbon, make sure you just leave a tiny little bit of slack, because when you do this, it's going to bunch up the ribbon a little bit and pull it really tight, so your page may end up, your ribbon needs to be able to have a little bit of room, a little bit of play. Wow, I just love this gorgeous collection, and the stencil you can use again and again and again, which I plan to do. And I hope you'd enjoyed this session, you learned some good tips, and that you love these tapestry layouts. I'll see you in class next time.